see if they're interested in participating. Because they're a little bit less structured than schools. We're sort of in the midst of potentially reworking our website. The new site is sort of uploaded or whatever. I don't exactly understand how it's happening, but it will.
I'm Debbie McGuire, and I direct the New York State Episcopal Public Policy Network. You know, as I was thinking about what I wanted to say, this is an annual meeting, and it's been every year, as long as I can remember. We have got together a few days before Thanksgiving to highlight the problem of hunger and homelessness in our state, in our city, our county, and in our country. And I wish we didn't have to do this. I wish that we would be able to say, we don't need to come together anymore. But unfortunately, the need keeps rising. It doesn't get better. It's getting worse. And that's not a very good thing. Today, we've got several people here to talk to you about what's happening right here in Albany. Deb Jameson is director of the Community Ministry Focused Churches of Albany. Rob Smith is the executive director. There he is. Executive director of Interfaith Impact, which is a how do you describe yourself?
So we're a progressive religious
organization. Ron Deutsch is executive director of New Yorkers for Fiscal Fairness. We've got Senator Neil Breslin, who represents this district, and Sean Shortell is here representing Congressman Paul Tonko. So without any further ado, Deb, please you.
The Faith and Hunger Network has called this press conference representing faiths from all different traditions. And we joined together today for our concern for all people and the sharing of prosperity. Every year, it's such a wonderful occasion when the community comes together at Thanksgiving to make sure that everyone can participate in a holiday meal. But we're here this morning to ask the question of what happens the day after. Hunger is a 365-day-a-year problem. It is a year-round crisis. Somewhere along the way, we've allowed hunger to become allowable. We live with the knowledge that some of our neighbors don't have enough to eat, and on some level, that's become tolerable to us. Hunger, unfortunately, is invisible to many New Yorkers, including those who govern in the state and national capitals. Right here in this space, a winter breakfast, a soup kitchen, has been operating since 1984. And today we announce with very mixed feelings the expansion of the soup kitchen into a year-round program. On one hand, we are blessed that we have the resources from private assistance and also the Hunger Prevention and Nutrition Assistance Program from the New York State Department of Health. And on the other hand, it's sobering to recognize that hunger is at an all-time high in New York State. Pantries and soup kitchens are bigger than ever. They're serving more people, with more and more jobless families showing up for meals. On average, this soup kitchen sees 140 people per morning. More than 3 million residents in New York State, or that's about 16% of the population, are now living below the poverty level. That's an increase from 15.8% in 2009 and 14% in 2008. And a similar number of New Yorkers turn to food pantries and soup kitchens for assistance, including right here in the capital region, over 40,000 people per month. These people do not have powerful lobbies. but I think they have the most compelling claim on our consciences and our common resources. We have an obligation to help them be heard and to join with others to insist that programs that serve the most vulnerable in our state and nation are protected. The Occupy Wall Street, the Occupy Albany movement has energized people here and around the world to question an economic system that widens the gap between the rich and middle class and actually neglects the poor. So this morning we implore Governor Cuomo to help pantries and soup kitchens meet the growing need. We're asking for a $4 million increase in funding to the Hunger Prevention and Nutrition Assistance Program, which pays for emergency food. And as we prepare to celebrate this season of bounty, we urge Congress to strengthen at the federal level the Farm Bill, so programs like SNAP, the food stamps, are protected and expanded. And as well, we call on our governor and legislature to start talking about hunger as a crisis in New York State. We believe that New York State can do better by taking action to provide adequate assistance to our fellow citizens, because we will not tolerate a state where soup kitchens and food pantries grow bigger each year, where boys and girls and men and women don't have enough to eat. Thank you.
And we advocate for the common good through progressive religious advocacy. I'm here today because hunger is a major issue in our country. I'm here because the gap, the income gap between most of us and the ultra-wealthy is growing at a spectacular rate. And we're in danger. Our economic system is in danger. And we are not going back to the basic roots of what makes us a great nation, what makes us a real community. And what makes us a real community is caring for one another. It's not happening. It's getting lost. The right of people to make money is not the right to exploit. It is not the right to deny food to women and children. It is not the right to ignore families who are in trouble. In this soup kitchen, people are responding. People of faith and goodwill are responding to the real needs. I don't see that happening on the other side. I don't see that happening with the wealthy, who are saying no new taxes on us, but we'll take away money from the poor this coming year. What's going to happen in the budget negotiations? Who's going to pay for programs? Or are they just going to keep taking more and more money away from programs like this that are absolutely essential to keeping our communities whole and healthy, keeping our families whole and healthy? This is about compassion, and it's about caring for who we are and what we are as Americans, and what keeps us together, what binds us together. And what binds us together is that common respect for one another. And we are losing that respect when we allow a small number of people to hoard over 85% of the wealth. That's not what makes a good country. That's not what makes a strong country. It's what sinks a ship when it links too far to one side. We want to stop that. So that's what we're here to say today. Let's remember during this Thanksgiving season that when you are talking to your legislators, when you are talking to your people in your community, it's about all of us, and we are all responsible for one another. Thank you.
With record hunger, record homelessness, record unemployment, with a crumbling infrastructure in our state, with thousands of families displaced by flooding in New York State, I would ask the question of the governor, how can you possibly justify a $5 billion tax cut to New York's wealthiest residents, to millionaires and billionaires, at a time when so many are going without? We need to acknowledge that folks who are hungry and homeless need help just as much as millionaires and billionaires in this state, if not more so, I would suggest. So I think we have to take a step back and realize that in this time of great income inequality. That is to say, New York right now is #1 in income inequality. We have the greatest gap between those that earn the most and those that earn the least. As a matter of fact, in New York, the top 1% of New Yorkers now have 35% of all the income generated in New York. And in New York City, it's even more stark. The top 1% have 45% of all the income generated. So at a time when we're experiencing record hunger and record homelessness, it's unfathomable to me that we can justify a tax break for the richest New Yorkers. So we're here today to ask Governor Cuomo, when he sits down in his Westchester home this weekend and celebrates Thanksgiving, that he think about those that are less fortunate in New York and start caring a little bit more about the 99% than the top 1%. Thank you.
Sean Shortell is the district director for Congressman Paul Conco, and he'd like to say a few words.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. It's great to join with the Hunger Action Network on behalf of Congressman Tonko. As we enter a busy season for food pantries and service nonprofits throughout upstate New York, it's fitting to join with them on the week of Thanksgiving and discuss why these programs are so important. At the federal level, it is unacceptable to propose cuts to SNAP and LIHEAP while not equally addressing revenues. And we pledge to work with our state and local partners and nonprofits like these throughout 2012 as Congress begins to address the Farm Bill to make sure that these programs are strengthened and expanded and that they are administered to the fullest effect. So it's great to join with you, and we thank you for your voice and your advocacy at the local level, and it's a great partnership. So thank you again.
Senator Neil Breslin, who has been our senator for many years and is a staunch supporter of our case.
You know, as the speakers have said, it's unfortunate that we have to get together on the eve, several days before Thanksgiving, and talk about what happens in all the other days beyond Thanksgiving. In this state, as was mentioned, where the disparity between the rich and the poor is the greatest among all the states, the disparity between the middle class and the poor is the greatest in this state, and has been, but is continuing to go in the opposite direction, the bad direction. So I'm afraid that we are entering into a culture that we look upon the less fortunate as something that's happened that's their fault. And I was raised that under the premise that all people have a right to a roof over their heads, food on their table, health care, education, and we're not seeing that. We're seeing the opposite of that. We're seeing people viewed that if they're homeless or they're without food, it's their fault. And that isn't what this country is or should be about. So I call upon my fellow legislators in the state legislature, the Congress, and all elected officials to take a new direction that in a time of recession, we don't hurt the most vulnerable. In a time of recession, we reach out with our hands to make this a better place to live. And that should be with a fair taxing system, a system that we've always thought that is progressive, that the wealthy pay more money than others. So hopefully this will be a change, and hopefully this will be the year where we begin to mend ourselves, and mend ourselves in a proper way, with a fairer tax system, and more of a conscious effort to bring equality to this state. So I thank everyone here who've spoken before me, and hopefully we all hold hands to go forward and make every day a Thanksgiving. Thank you very much.
And maybe there's a way to be able to get a listing. I think that they have